How does Five Nights at Freddy's The Joy of Creation Reborn work behind the scenes? Reborn was the earlier version of the Joy of Creation, prior to the finalized story mode, and you were able to walk around freely. But what does the game hide from the player from the developer's point of view? Well, we have some ground to cover to finish up our coverage on this game. Today, we're covering Chica's and Foxy's challenges, alongside the extra mode that you unlock for beating them all. So buckle up, and I hope you enjoy. Have you ever thought about what life would be like after a global zombie apocalypse? Well, if you haven't, you can sample the experience safely in Life After, the sponsor of today's video. Life After is an open-world doomsday game for mobile that truly has a vast amount of environments to explore. Fortify and build a home while obtaining resources to survive in this doomsday environment. Or dip into the chaos as you tap into mutant abilities as a half-changed revenant. The map in Life After is huge, and even features extreme areas like glaciers, deserts, islands, and more. Even the open seas aren't safe in the new Sea of Zombie expansion, which was just updated in August, with a brand new update coming next month. The horrors have spread into the oceans, unleashing terrifying monsters and water-based zombies. Life After has had all sorts of cool crossovers with the likes of Resident Evil, Attack on Titan, and more. And their latest crossover event partners with Evangelion. From different outfits of the anime characters, to unique weapon skins, to even a new Evangelion Unit 08 style motorboat. To make things more terrifying, the angels from the series have been reimagined as zombies in the Life After crossover event. You'll be tasked with helping Unit 01 recover its power while fending off attacks from the angels. In the end, the collective power wakes up the angels to help defeat the big zombie boss in Life After. So if you're ready to take on the ever-growing horde and rise above the next biggest update to the game, click the link in the description below to begin your quest for survival. And a big thanks to Life After for sponsoring this video and supporting our YouTube channel. So first off, we are going to cover Chica's challenge. Now, just like the previous challenges, when you go into Chica's challenge, there is a title/splash screen that has Chica on it and their title, and this is what that looks like from different angles. Now, when it comes to this challenge, I honestly think this is one of the most difficult challenges in this version of the game. You're within a forest and you have to go around and collect all these different drawings or things pinned to trees and other objects, and it's very much slender of the 8 pages, except the problem is, unlike other challenges, you don't have a maze of walls and stuff to separate you from your assailant. Chica is lurking in the dark and she will run at you, and the only thing you can do to defend yourself is to quickly look at her. I think that's the mechanic. You have to quickly turn around and look at her and then she'll stop moving for a second. But honestly, I'm not entirely too sure. I actually never beat this challenge. However, just because I did not clear it personally, does not mean I don't have some cool things to show off. So the map itself is basically trees and rocks, and there's pathways and stuff through the forest, and the whole map is enclosed in a metal fence. Now the first thing I want to do is get the heck out of here. I do not want to be inside this metal fence with Chica, so we're going to get on the outside. And once we're on the outside of this metal fence, we're actually safe from Chica. Now Chica will run right up to the fence and try to kill us, but she cannot pass through the fence. She just sort of aggressively slides against it, trying her best to get us. But luckily, we are safe and we have nothing to worry about. Now this area is kind of interesting because beyond the fence, in this outer world, we do have these trees, and the trees in this map sort of spawn in. They have a loading distance that they are affected by. So as we walk, the trees around us sort of spawn in and fade out. So surrounding this entire map, the forest eventually comes to an end, and we just have an open field. And this open field goes on for a bit, and it goes all around this level. Now, what is most interesting is what is hidden in the forest outside of the map, and that is the various animatronics that are not pursuing you in this map. So for example, we can find Freddy just chilling out here. And all these animatronics are placed specifically so that if you were up against the fence in the danger zone within the actual challenge itself, you would still be able to see these animatronics staring at you from the dark forest out of bounds. So they're kind of like Easter eggs. And we have Freddy, who's over here, and then on a different side of the fence, we have Bonnie, who's sort of looking from behind a tree, and then we also have Foxy. Now all 3 of these are really creepy. When you see them when Chica is chasing after you, it definitely makes you even more scared. And the Bonnie that's by the tree, I have a theory about this Bonnie that also applies to the first area with Freddy, and how this Bonnie in this orientation is actually accidentally included within the story mode version of the game. And this has to do with the opening and closing cutscenes of that game. Because if you were to brighten up the map, you will see that Bonnie is clipping through the house. Now my hunch for this is that this map was duplicated so that the trees would spawn in like they do here. However, this time they placed a house onto the map so that they could create the intro cutscenes and the credits to the game. However, during this duplication process, Bonnie was also copied, yet they weren't removed. So Bonnie can be found clipping through the side of the house. And like I said, you normally cannot see this because of how dark the game is, but I think it's kind of cool. Now, going back to Reborn, if we head far out of bounds, we can find another Chica deep in the woods. And just like the previous encounters with animatronics out of bounds, this duplicate animatronic, in this case Chica, is used for the jump scare animation. So you get hit by Chica and you get warped out here and you get jump scared. Now Chica, when she jump scares you, starts to peck through your skull or your torso. And watching this in slow motion is actually kind of funny, so here you go. Now next up we have Foxy's map. And before we get into Foxy's map, we have Foxy's title screen, which shows Ignited Foxy. And this is what that looks like from a different angle. Now, Foxy's map in the attic is very similar to Bonnie's map in the basement. So normally, in order to beat this mode, you have to flash Foxy with your flashlight. And this will temporarily stun Foxy so you can get farther away and do the things you need to do. But we can't get out of bounds of this map, and we can walk on top of the entire attic area. And it's kind of creepy out here. It looks like this weird surreal maze, and we can wander around on top of the attic, exploring all the different nooks and crannies that are up here. And obviously, the biggest things we can see are the slanted roofs of the attic. These taller attic rooms can actually still be stood on. We can walk on them. However, the sides of these rooms are like a slope, so you'll begin to slide really, really fast, and this momentum can actually make us fall off the map, even though our player character Collider normally restricts this from happening. And it's near these taller rooms that we can actually see the jump scare Foxy out of bounds. And near this Foxy is a tree that is just sort of floating there. The Foxy's between these two attic rooms, perfectly positioned so the player will never see it. But honestly, there isn't really a whole lot to this map. Wandering around it and the interior is cool, but on the outside it's pretty barren. However, as always, the slow motion jump scare is really funny, so we can give that a watch. But with this, we wrapped up all the basic challenges in the game. However, now it is time to move on to the extra mode. Now the extra mode is a reward for beating all the challenges in the game. And it sort of feels like a guided experience through like a haunted house. Upon loading in, you're in this room that has 4 of the ignited animatronics all within glass cases. And it really feels like a museum. There's some really nice music playing and it actually feels kind of relaxing. You also feel safe because they're within these boxes, and the aesthetic of this room makes it feel like it is indeed like a model viewer and bonus content. However, when you go and flip the light switch off, things change, the room gets dark, and then a doorway appears. And this doorway takes you through a series of 3 separate hallways. And these hallways do have things in them to scare you. Like in the first one, there is a ghostly Freddy that sort of pops out at the end and spooks you. In the second hallway, you sort of get spooked by another animatronic that appears, and you have to turn around and then go through a different door. And then ultimately, this door takes you to the final area, which has a bunch of ghostly, glitchy Foxies. They're all scattered around, and they actually sort of make a hallway that you need to walk through. As you continue to walk, they get more narrow, and then eventually you get a jump scare with text on screen. And the text says, "Come back later." Now, that's the normal flow of events, but if we brighten up this map, you can see how this map is actually laid out. So you have these 3 giant sloped hallways that are all lined up on the map. And trying to walk on top of any of these will actually make your character enter a free slide, similar to the hills from Freddy's challenge, and we can't do anything, we just slide all the way to the end. However, of course, like most things, the developer is going to hide things out of bounds that they don't need anymore, or that they need to use inside the map. So first off, we can actually find the ghostly Freddy, who was teasing us in the first 2 tunnels. He is just out of bounds of the first tunnel to the left side. And actually, if we're out here, there's walkable ground. There's enough flooring that we can walk around and actually check out this creepy version of this Freddy. And yeah, he's just standing out here, not doing anything, and we can't interact with him. Moving on, the jump scare area is actually found between tunnels 2 and 3. So near the end of the third tunnel to the left, between those two tunnels, you will find the ghostly Foxy and the jump scare text. And they're just floating out here. So the player is either transported out here, or the camera is moved out here so that jump scare can play and we can see this text. But unknown to the player, they were always just out here, right to our left. But while we're here, we might as well look at the brightened models of the Foxy animatronics, and this is what they look like. But with this wraps up our adventure in the Joy of Creation Reborn. I hope you learned something new about this beta version of the game. And of course, subscribe right now if you want to see more content just like this. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you have a good day. Cheers!